Hey, I'm just gonna make this as a video so I can send it to YouTube and explain everything verbally. Pretty rough though. Caissons technically kinda sorta code. It's not it's not great though, and the beam setup is kind of funky. So like, I mean, it's bowed as hell first of all. But the configuration of it itself is kind of an issue. This span, this double span, I don't even know why they have a triple right there. That's that's kind of overkill, but on this side it's underkill, and that's kind of the issue, which is why I said I don't really understand their beam configuration. That's why this whole deck is sloping downhill from the door on this side. Another big issue is that they put the ledger directly on top of the siding, and you can see that it kind of crushed that siding when they installed it. So she's definitely going to get some. I mean, I'm not trying to damage anything, but you can see this paint is already peeling away, and she's getting some water damage in here. So that's the issue with the way that they did the ledger, and they caulked it, but that's not how deck installs need to go. Lag bolts, the fasteners they used are correct, but you can't install that ledger directly on top of siding. The correct way to do it is to actually notch out the siding, replace the house wrap behind it, and then the ledger itself should be flashed from the top of the band joist of the house over that deck ledger, so that any water that sits, this is the issue, this is the collection point. So any water that's getting into this gap needs to have a way to hit the top of the ledger, but then move away from the house. But because they installed it directly on top of the siding, it's moving into the house. That by itself would justify a complete tear out and rebuild, because there's no way to access that ledger without pulling the whole structure of the deck away from the house, and that's not like I mean, that's not a kind of surgery that you can do. There's no way to separate these joists, get them out of the way, reconfigure the ledger, and then staple them back in. At that point, you've got to disassemble everything. So you could put the same material back in, but by the time you get it completely disassembled, I don't really see the point. Obviously, railing is not pretty, but it's also not code. So code is 4-inch. It's actually like 3 7/8 is your maximum gap between balusters. And same thing here, we could reuse the material, but by the time you take it all apart to reassemble it correctly, it's just not going to fly. This is not code right here. Beam span, so back to that too. The way the span itself is not necessarily the issue, but the construction of it is. Like the way they have this beam assembled to the post is not technically correct. It's so for something like this little triple, this little third beam right here, for something like that, that's acceptable. Because this piece is not actually structural, just this little piece holding up the stairs. Like they could have honestly just omitted the beam completely right here and just used the single post for the reinforcement on this corner. But for load bearing beam construction, that isn't code, and it might have been code when they did it, but it definitely is not now. Part of the issue is that the beam assembly is relying on the shear strength of those lag bolts, and the shear rating on those is actually pretty high. But a better way to build a beam is to actually have that beam stacked on top of the post, where you don't have as much of a shear concern. It's just compressive force down. Caissons appear, so on that note, the compressive force, caissons appear to be code. but the fact that it's settling this much on this outside edge tells me that they probably didn't go as deep as they needed to on the caissons. They appear to be code. They have the correct bracket and stuff on them. But the fact that it's compressing on this outside edge tells me that it's not code, or that their caissons were not deep enough. This is not code. That's just buried. Same thing here. It's not going to be code. Stairs. Everything about the stairs is wrong. It's about to rain, so I'm probably going to get out of here. But everything about these stairs is wrong. They have a lot of variation, tread height to tread height. So your maximum variation is, I think it's 3/8 of an inch from throughout the whole system. So this is 7.5 height, 6.5 height. So you automatically fail code right there. Same variation rules on the tread depth. So we have 12 down to 11. So that's an automatic failure. Plus entrapment and falling hazards right here. Your maximum gappage right there is a sphere that's 4.5 inches. So baluster spacing is 3 7/8 between balusters. On stairs, you can't fit a sphere than 4.5 inches through any part. So we're at 19 inches. It's safe to say that's a no-go. It's pretty rough. The biggest concern right now, honestly, just to help her take care of it until she has more time. Definitely close up some of this water stuff. That's the real issue. That's the main issue with the house. I mean, she could honestly rip down the deck and just put a set of stairs coming out of the back door. That's fine. But the main issue is just preventing damage to the house more than what it's already getting. So close that up. Put some fucking duct tape flashing or something over that for now. Second issue is the compression on this outside edge here. At least this corner we need to jack up, put a new post underneath it. And the issue is if it compresses anymore, it can separate from the house and pull down and cause damage to that band joist on the house. So let's at least get this jacked up. It's not going to separate from the house. Those would be the here and now fixes. So I'll upload this to YouTube and I'll send it to you just so you can share it with her. Yard looks nice though. They did a really good job. Quite nice. Alright, I'm getting soaked. I'll talk to you later.